Good morning, everyone. We're just going to get started now. My name is Hermione Malone. I'm Executive Director of Good Work Network. Thank you so much for joining us. We're delighted to bring Vicki Clark to you to help us talk about navigating change for entrepreneurs today. Before I turn it over to Vicki, just want to give you a little quick commercial about Good Work Network. We have been around for almost 20 years supporting women and minority entrepreneurs as they grow their businesses. You can find out more about our programs and services, which are available 100% virtually at goodworknetwork.org. We've got an exciting array of programs that we've been offering through what I'm calling May Madness, everything from marketing to HR to business finance, and now a little bit about organizational change. We also are happy to offer one-on-one advising support to entrepreneurs who might need help not only navigating this particular economic crisis, but just your business strategy in general. All of our one-on-one services are free of charge, and so if you need that assistance, again, you can find out how to contact us on our website, where we also have a very rich and robust web page for COVID-19 resources. So much information, whether it's about finances, loan opportunities, understanding some of the federal rules and regs. For folks who are based in Louisiana with us, information on reopening. All of that is there on our website, so we invite you to join us, and also to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. With that, I'm going to introduce Vicki Clark to you all, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for, I think, almost 15 years. We were trying to talk about that the other week, how long it's been. But Vicki has devoted the past 30 years of her life to building capacity in organizations and inspiring communities and business leaders. A noted speaker, facilitator, consultant, and trainer, she has extensive experience in the nonprofit, government, and private sectors. Her work includes numerous specialty areas, including project planning, membership engagement, strategic planning, volunteer resource development, and effective communication. She has made presentations in 49 of the 50 United States and internationally in England, Russia, Canada, and Venezuela. Additionally, she has worked with a variety of companies and organizations, including Dun & Bradstreet, the National Association for Women Business Owners, the Centers for Disease Control, the American Bar Association, and many, many, many more. Vicki is a consummate service leader and proudly serves on the boards of the National Diaper Bank Network and Youth Volunteer Corps. She attended the University of Missouri and lives in Memphis, Tennessee. And without further ado, I am happy to introduce Vicki Clark.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It is my joy to be here with you today and to share a little bit about navigating change for entrepreneurs. I am one of you. I am an independent consultant and business person, and I wasn't even sure that I knew that, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. You know, this idea that one day can change everything, for many of us, the COVID-19 situation may have changed everything. For others of us, things may have been changing all the time, but the idea of whether it changed in a day or if it's been an evolution, the idea is that in business, change is vital. My story is that I pretty much traveled about 300 days a year doing presentations and consultations around the country and internationally. And about the 11th of March, I was in Gainesville, Florida, had been doing presentations around women and Women's History Month. And all of a sudden, the world closed up and I came home to Memphis, and I have been here ever since. And so the idea that I also am experiencing this change, and how do I don't call it pivot. Everybody keeps talking about pivoting. I'm not talking about pivoting. This is talking about turning your head upside down, standing on your head and flipping backwards. So this idea that whether it's COVID-19 or whatever it is, that in business change is vital. This idea is we really have to search for it and seek for it. Many of you, and probably me, we had an idea of what we wanted our businesses to be, and it was our baby. And if it worked, we were going to be great with it. And I'm not sure how long we thought it would last. I'm not sure how much scenario thinking or planning we did, but we really have to search for change. What could be different? What could be better? And for many people, you feel like that's betraying your original concept. It's not. It's part of the evolution. And if you have not read anything by Peter Drucker, I would so encourage you to look at any of Dr. Drucker's work, because his words ring so true that we always have to search for change. And I'm not going to say even respond to it, but the idea of exploit it and really to get out in front of it. This idea of thinking of it as an opportunity and not a threat. This is an opportunity to do some things much differently. I wondered how long I thought I could keep traveling for 300 days. I'm an older boomer, and it's like that wasn't going to work for me. And so if the whole country had not shut down, I really needed to have been thinking about another business model. The whole idea is that we have to do something. And so the idea of don't think of it as a threat, our mindset has a lot to do with it, but it's an opportunity to do some things differently. It is time for everybody to revisit and revise our vision for our business. Again, if we hadn't thought of doing it before the pandemic, we really need to think about it now. And again, it's not betraying your original concept of what you wanted to do, what you thought was best. This idea of seeing the invisible. I like the idea. So how can you see the invisible? Because there are opportunities and there's potential there. This idea of being flexible and adaptable. It takes a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. It takes a lot of courage to say, how can this be different when I thought I had it just right? When I was so successful, how can this be different? I'm going to go one further and say not only about being flexible and adaptable, but being nimble. And when you're nimble, it means that you are available to turn on a dime. You are open to things and you can flex and you can just, you're almost moldable. Anybody remember Play-Doh? And the idea of, yes, I can do that. Yes, we can do that. But that is where the touch of genius comes from. And sometimes it does mean moving in the opposite direction. But again, from a mindset standpoint, we need to forget what we think we are so that we can really become what we are. This is one of my favorite quotes, because the idea of what you thought your business was going to be, it may not be what you really were intended to be. It may have been the seed of it, and now other opportunities are opened up. You say, well, what is this lady saying? I'm supposed to forget my original concept? No, but we can't become something different unless we evolve. Yesterday's strategies aren't effective for the future, and we have to be ready for tomorrow. You notice it doesn't say being ready for today, it's being ready for tomorrow. Groups that did not have a little cash on hand, groups that didn't have an alternate vision or didn't come up with one quickly just weren't ready. And so we're going to have to be ready for the future. And that doesn't mean sitting around waiting for your state or your city or your county to reopen, because we're not going back to where we were. And we probably shouldn't go back to where we were. And so this idea of how can we be future forward and how can we be forward thinking? We have to have some ideas, but we have to do something. And then we have to try it to change. And we'll talk about the difference in change and transformation. And if not now, when? This is a perfect opportunity. And if you needed an excuse, or if you had been afraid to, or if you had been hesitant to make any changes, this is the perfect time to try some things. And again, if not now, when? It is definitely time for all of us to think about it. This is the way I feel. I don't know about how you feel, but this idea of being on an emotional roller coaster about our work, about our health, about our communities, about our suppliers, about our, our finances, everything. And it feels like this. I was on a call with a cognitive behavioral therapist, and no, I was not facilitating. I was a participant. And she was saying that our bodies and our minds have gone into flight or fight mode. And the idea of being so uncertain about everything is what's making us so tense. So it's okay to be on this roller coaster. Understand, we have lost our routine. There are some things that are ending, and we don't know how any of this is going to take shape. That's why it's up to us to try to get out in front of this. And you may be feeling all of this. You're going to get all of these slides in shock. I think everybody was in shock. When I finally got a plane to come home, I think that second week in March, I was in shock. I was like, what do you mean? I was on my way to Chicago. They had shut Illinois down for groups larger than 50. I was supposed to go to a conference. It was supposed to be 700 people. I was like, what does this mean? And we may also be mourning for what it was, for what our businesses were. You may miss some of your customers. You may miss some of the things that you've been doing. And then this fight or flight mode. I don't know about you, but I spent the first 2 weeks being totally disoriented. And then there's the nostalgia, what it was when we started it, how great our businesses were. Then you get mad. And I'm not going to take each one of these, but at some point, we have to make a decision. We have to make a decision that we're going to search for something new, and then we focus our exploration and we make informed choices. So and this is not the roller coaster just keeps going forward. There's a little backing up sometimes that happens. So I would encourage you to say, where am I today on this roller coaster as it relates to my work? If you have not explored some of William Bridges' work, I would encourage you. He talks about the difference in change and transition and about the emotions that are involved. You say, wait a minute, we're talking about business. We're not talking about emotion. We're talking about people. And this idea of change versus transition. Change is situational. It's what's in here. It's the psychological process that we go through is, oh my gosh, the business doesn't look like I thought it was going to look. This was not my original vision. It's been so successful this far. How can I change to something else? This isn't really what I wanted to do. So the change is external. The transition is what's internal. I know some of the restaurants, and not just here in Memphis, but everywhere, the first thing they did was they started like little pantries selling the items that they had in stock, like flour and sugar and things like that. I was like, wow, that's not what they intended to do. That was nobody set out to do that, but they realized, oh, we have food, we have items, we need to get rid of them. Restaurants not open. How can we still be of service to our customers? And to me, that was like, wow, I never would have thought of that. But the idea that, guess what? We don't have people coming in. We don't have people sitting down. We're not really interacting with people. That was the transition part. So when you look at Bridges' theory, he talks about 3 phases. There are a lot of things that we have to say goodbye to. And there are some things that we have to let go. And yes, it possibly means losing a sense of identity. For me, again, all of the traveling, even though I said, I don't, this traveling is driving me insane. But the idea of letting go, being actually in front of people and sharing with people. I'm a real people person. And I mean, you do it by Zoom, but it's kind of who I was, if you will. This idea of this is where we all now, we're in this neutral zone. This is really uncomfortable because we're not sure what's going to go on. And we need to spend some time here. We need to spend some time thinking about this. We need to spend some time being okay, not knowing, and we need to be okay with ambiguity. Some of you are very checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. And the idea that you don't know how this is going to work out, or you don't know what you're going to change into, how you're going to transition, is uncomfortable. Please be okay in the neutral zone. This is where all of the generative work takes place, and then moving forward, new beginnings. And most of the new beginnings start right up here in our heads. And we have to communicate effectively. First, you have to talk to yourself, and then to your stakeholders. If you have employees, your vendors, everybody, stay in contact with other people in this network and seeing how other people are coping. And it's one step forward at a time. So these 3, so figure out, what are you saying goodbye to? And what are you letting go of? And what must you let go of? And then move into this neutral zone. Same thing. This is just another model of looking at it that you move about. And there will be skepticism about the change initiative. You're not going to totally embrace it. We were talking before you all came on about communities of faith and how many communities of faith are saying, how do we get back to where we are? How can temple or how can church or, how can service look like it once looked? It's not going to. And there may be some resentment toward the change, but the idea of moving toward the new beginning. And there will be anxiety. And that's okay. And then hopefully you move into it. And you would not be on this call if you weren't open to new learning and a renewed commitment to the group or to your business. So just this idea of managing this and thinking of every ending as a new beginning. You say, I didn't want to begin again. We don't have a choice. And again, whether it was COVID-19 or whatever, we need to stay, our businesses have to be vital. They have to be responsive to what's going on externally. You know, what change needs to happen and why? What areas of the business are involved with it? Who needs to be involved in the planning? You sitting with your computer, talking to yourself is not gonna work. You need to get a lot of people and talk to them. You know, now we talk to them by Zoom or by phone, you know, and what could you do? What factors are working for and against? And what can be done right away? And there are some things that we can do right away. And then what needs further time, research, and implementation. And that's a New Orleans bridge, by the way. I thought I put that in there for those of you in New Orleans. This idea of change and transformation, I really think that what we don't want is that we really want to transform our business, and we want to transform our thinking as entrepreneurs. We want to transform who we can be, therefore what our businesses can be. And I think the interesting thing about this is that it is more about unlearning than learning. Unlearning that we don't have to do things the same way. Unlearning that everything, you know, we all have routines for our business. We have personal routines, and we are having to unlearn all of that. And that's where transformation rises up above change. Versus that we're not just, we're going to be doing some change, doing some things differently, but we're really going to look at a new way of being, which is a shift in values. So the idea of going back is if the only thing we valued was having people in a room together, that's not going to work anymore. And so the idea of what is a shift in value, how can we still bring people together? How can we still let people know that we value them, but we're not going to bring them physically together? And so that's the whole transformation thing versus doing things differently means we're going to rearrange some chairs. We're going to, put some, we're going to take some chairs and some tables out. That's change. This idea of transforming. And what is it that you need to unlearn about your business and about yourself? Are you seeking a better version of now? Or are you really looking for something new? Right now, I think most people are looking for a better version of now, but please don't forget that we really need to be looking at something new that can still be in the arena of the work that we have passion for, but it may look totally different. We're often trying to fix the past while we're creating the future. That's very difficult. That's building a plane and flying it at the same time. But nobody said being an entrepreneur is going to be easy. For myself, I feel like that I'm involved in 2 business ventures right now. I'm still doing a lot of my group work with groups and organizations and businesses, but I'm also starting an individual business in terms of online leadership training and coaching. Those are 2 different, they're very different. And yeah, it's been really tough. So I'm trying to, still hang on a little bit to the past, but creating a new future for my own work. And the idea that the longer I'm doing both of them, and it's only been a few weeks, about a month or so, I realized that it is the same thing that I want to do, is have an impact on people's lives, have a positive impact on people's businesses or their organizations. And it's like, yeah, this really is it. It looks different. It feels different, but it really is creating the future. This idea of we have to become familiar with the current situation, and you have to be okay with that. You say, oh my gosh, when I look at it, my bottom line looks bad. I've had to lay people off. Oh my gosh, you got to get that baseline, and you have to be okay with it. And we can't spend a lot of time being angry about it, because that's just using energy we don't have. In transformation, we're trying to create the future and create our tomorrow. Again, speaking for myself, I'm supposed to spend so much time each day working on the individual coaching and on the individual mentoring piece. That's very difficult when I still have a lot of work with organizations. But the idea of we're not trying to do it better or faster or cheaper, this is a totally new thing. And we can learn from the way we ran our businesses before or our original vision, but it really is different. But we also have to grasp the current state of affairs without blame. Without blame. That's the hard part. If I had only done this, if I hadn't bought this, if I hadn't tried this, that's just wasted energy. So this idea of setting boundaries and constraining possibilities in change or in transformation mode, it's only the limits of your imagination and courage. It takes a lot of courage. So this idea of being in change and transformation mode at the same time can be very exciting, but can also be very scary. So these 5 things that adaptable entrepreneurs do, and I wish I would change that to nimble entrepreneurs. You work on your business, not only in it. I wasn't very good at that. I worked more in the business, getting presentations ready, working on getting travel, all that kind of thing. I'm not sure if I was very good working on setting up a business. And I regret that. And I'm learning more about that because guess what? I have somebody helping me now. I'm not trying to do it all by myself. And so the idea of standing back and actually working on the business and taking time to work on the business, not just doing the work of the business. And that's really hard because for most of you and most of us, it's the work in the business that we like. I like doing the presentations. You may like doing whatever it is in your business, but all this backroom stuff may not be your thing. Setting up systems and checks and balances and all of those types of things may not be your thing. That's why you have to get folks to help you. But it's really important to work on your business. That's why Good Work Network is so important, because they can help you with systems and strategies to actually work on the business. And I know it's so tempting to just work in the business. There's a woman that I know in Florida who bakes the most amazing cakes, and she ships them all over the country. And she loves baking. She loves baking and she is good at it. Oh my gosh, her cakes are amazing, and how they stay moist when she ships them and all that. I don't know. But every time I've been sending them for birthdays and things like that. And she says, I know I need to work on that website. I know I need to do more social media. But what she really enjoys is the baking. And I said to her, why don't you get somebody to help you with those other things? Because she really likes spending her time, doing the work of the business. But we do have to work on the business, not just in the business. This idea of leading responsibly, being adaptable and accepting responsibility for the well-being and remaining accountable for our decisions. That does not mean that we beat ourselves up. And we can't lose sight of the importance of cash flow and profitability because we're running a business. Again, I'm preaching to the choir here. I wasn't very good at that. It was like, well, I'll try this, or they don't have this, or I'll give them a little leadway and all of that. And who ended up in a bit of trouble? Me. This is not saying that we don't do some things that we care for, work with people that we care for, adjust some things, but we have to have money. It's not the be all end all, but we have to be responsible for our business. And sometimes that means saying no to some groups. It may be saying no to some things that we really want to do from an expansion standpoint. Maybe it's not the time to expand. Maybe it's time to contract. Maybe it's time to rethink this. So this idea of remaining accountable for our decisions is really important. We got to have participation. And whether you have staff or not, whether you're one person, you got to have a network. You got to have and you have to be willing to listen to people. I know a lot of people who start their own business say, you can't tell me anything about this. This is my baby. I started it. I've been thinking about this for all these years, and I have worked my tail off to get this done. And you really don't know. We really have to listen. We really have to listen, and we have to be open to other people's suggestions and ideas, even if there are people who, quote unquote, work for us. Again, this being open to participation and allowing other people to participate in the business and help us through these changing circumstances. And the first time somebody gives you an idea and we just shut it down. Now, are we going to do everything that somebody in the business suggests? No, but we want to create a culture. We want to broaden our network. You got to find some people who challenge you and inspire you and spend time with you. And that's what will change your life. That's why this network is so important. Find people who challenge you, not who just pat you on the head and say, oh, you're doing a great job. People who challenge you. And that's tough sometimes. That's what they used to call tough love, and people who inspire you. And that's really how to move your business forward. this idea of the culture. I don't know what the culture is in your business. Is it, I founded this business, I know everything and nobody else knows anything? Is it, we have an open culture. I want to listen to what everybody says. I want to hear, I want to talk to other people who are in the business and don't think of them only as competitors. That's why I'm a part of the National Association of Women Business Owners. It's just me. I don't really have anybody else, but I love listening to what the other women in business talk about and their ideas. And many of them do a lot of, especially county and city contracts, and listening to what they say and how they go about it. It has many applications for me as an independent contractor. And then the idea is, what's your behavior when people come to you with suggestions? Again, are you open? The idea of what do you value? And then how does work get done on a day-to-day basis? If all of a sudden you dropped off the face of the earth, would the business still continue? Or is it so much about you that it would not? So you really have to bring people in, and organizations and businesses are just people, and they change when we change. This idea of scanning, you say, I don't have time to watch the news. I don't have time to read the business journals. Then we get somebody who likes to do that. We got to know what's going on. If you look at a logic model, this is called what's going on externally. These external factors that we do not control, and we have to stay on top of these. We've got to stay on top of these. I'm told, you can ping your phone or your computer when something comes up. We've got to get, again, this is working on the business. What's going on in the environment? How will politics impact this? How's the economy impacting this? How's crime in our neighborhood impacting this? I know, again, I live in the city in Memphis. I'm in the house I grew up in, which is amazing to be back here after living in lots of places. But it's a very different neighborhood. And I look at some of the small businesses around who have changed and evolved, and some that have gone out of business. And it's just interesting, but you got to stay on top of what's going on. Are you in touch with the mayor? Are you in touch with the county commissioners? Do people know who you are? Are you listening to what's going on? Do you ever go to a city council meeting? And the regulations are changing every 5 minutes about what we're supposed to do and what we're not to do. So it's really important to be a good listener. And again, if you don't have time to do this, get somebody to stay on top of these things for you. And it's interesting that healthcare is the first driver of change. That so goes, and this was designed before COVID-19, that so goes the health of a community, so goes the community. And then the economy and the workforce, we know about that. And technology, we can't all be technological wizards. I'm finally learning how to share my slides on Zoom. I'm getting really good at this. But the idea is we really do have to try to keep up as much as we can with the technology. Then this idea of what's going on in education in your community, specifically in your focus area or in the work that you are in. How are people getting educated about this? And then what does career advancement look like in your industry? What does it look like? What could it look like? And then again, the social, political, and the regulatory and the environment, very, very important. And then philanthropy. What's going on in your community with the nonprofit sector? What's going on? Who are the major givers? How do you fit into that? Are you involved in some way with the nonprofit community? You say, I don't have a lot of money to give. You may not, but there are ways to be involved with nonprofits that even small business people can share their resources, not just money, share your knowledge with the nonprofit community. So these are the things that drive change. And I know it says, what should you watch and monitor? Everything. I mean, you can't listen to all the news and all of that, but select some certain business journals, especially local, as well as county, and probably a couple of national ones that you want to follow. Or there may be trade sites around the type of industry that you are in to pay attention to. We don't listen enough. We are talkers. Entrepreneurs love to talk. You say, that's how I got my business going. I talk to people into investing. I talk to people into, giving me a contract. And I did my work. We have got to listen more. And listening is different from hearing. basically most of us can hear because we can perceive sound. Listening is when we're actively concentrating on what we hear and our brain is processing information. We are not listening to respond, we're listening to understand. And so the idea is listen, also listen to what's going on inside of you, listen to all that stuff that's going on out there, and listen to some people who have traveled this road ahead of you. So it's really important to take time to listen. We got to have a plan. I didn't have a plan. I really didn't have a plan. I'm just telling you all my dirty secrets, but that's just who I am. I didn't have a plan. I should have had a plan. And I love this quote: a plan is the wheel with which the adaptable entrepreneur steers the ship on a wild ocean. If you thought the ocean was wild before, now we got a tsunami, and keeps it well away from the rocks. We really have to have a plan. And again, if that's not your thing, get someone to help you with a plan. Good Work Network, other people can help you, and we have to work the plan. But imagine that the plan is written in pencil, because we're going to need to erase things, we're going to need to change things. It's a rolling plan. And the idea that the plan evolves as we evolve, but we really have to have a plan. I love that an idea without a plan is just a wish. And we really want to be more than wishing. We got to get focused, and it's very difficult right now to get focused. We got to choose what we need to do now, and then what are our short-term steps, what are our mid-course steps, and then what are our long-term. That's your plan. What do I need to do right now? What's the mid-course? And then what's the long-term thing? And then how am I going to do this? And once I know what I need to change, how am I going to do it? And then the other thing that's not there is, who do I get to help me? Anticipate that it's not going to go very smoothly. And there are going to be glitches. And when there is a glitch, don't say, I knew that change wouldn't work. You got to try it another way. I was working with a group that was putting on courses for teenage girls, and they had opened it up to the public. And they got about 60 girls. I don't think there's anything wrong with changing the lives of 60 girls. Mentoring 60 girls, I thought it was a good idea. But then they said, well, we expected more girls than this. I was like, oh, okay. I thought, well, who could you partner with? Where are you going to find girls? They started working with the school district. The school district was very excited about having a program for ninth grade girls. The school district identified ninth grade girls. Now, the original group had identified sixth grade through 10th grade. And so this idea that they had to change their original concept. But the idea was that it gave them the opportunity to have access to many more girls, and for many more girls to benefit from what they were offering. And then the idea of changing now. And if it doesn't work, guess what? We just go back to the first. We can't be timid, and we can't hold off. This idea of scenario planning, I love that. If plan A doesn't work, there's 25 more letters in the alphabet. And so the idea of contingency planning and scenario thinking. Often we think that if something does not work, we're done. We just throw our heads up and we go, I can't do this. This doesn't work. I'm a failure. All that negative talk that we do, we just got to have more plans. And we think different scenarios. What happens if this, and then this, plan B, plan C, plan D, we're going to need all of that. And it really is an art of scenario thinking and making contingency plans. I would bet now many of you have contingency plans. You may not have had them before all of this, but the idea of responding to negative factors, and then what are the trigger points? If I had been watching the news while I was out there on the road, because I was too busy doing the work, I really wasn't. I didn't realize things were getting so bad with COVID. I wasn't really listening. And the idea is, what's the contingency plan and what's the trigger when we put it in place? And it shouldn't be the last minute. We need to put it in place before things go so low. And you can actually say that if X occurs, we should consider X, Y, and then it should be put in place when this happens. So it's the idea, and you may have like 5 or 6 of these. And at this point, it may be if you have some type of, obviously everybody has a business, but when we get back to, when we try to move forward in our business, if we don't hit a certain metric, then we need to do this, we need to move to that. And it's really important to do that right now. And whether the metric is about income or attendance or contracts or whatever it is, you have to decide what your factors are, the most important factors that drive and that are responsible for the continuity of your business so that you can get involved in contingency planning. And this is something that needs to be written down, or put on a spreadsheet or whatever. And you need to share it with other people who are in the business. And we need to be watching for these things, because wishing and hoping won't make it happen. Then this idea of scenario planning, looking ahead and considering different uncertainties. And that's where we are now. Again, scenario planning and contingency, same thing. If this happens, we need to move to this. If this happens, we need to move to this. It's different. And pathways and choices, there are different pathways and there are different choices available. The creativity of small businesses has been, and entrepreneurs has been amazing in the last couple of months. I love hearing those stories. You notice the big giant companies can't turn that fast. It's much harder to turn an aircraft carrier than it is to turn a Volkswagen. And so the idea of scenario planning, what if, what might be, and consider different stories. You can tell them like stories. You know, if this happens, we'll do this. And they can help us to adapt to the changing aspect of our environment. This idea of asking questions. It is okay to ask questions. Again, it goes back to the culture. Are people that you work with afraid to ask you questions? You know, and what are the things that are uncertain right now? Gosh, we could have a list of 99 things that are uncertain right now. And then we pick 2 of our major uncertainties on a matrix. And then what are the implications for when those uncertainties, if they go this way, we'll do this. If they go this way, we'll do this. But this idea of what's the big question? What are the questions as to how we move forward? And the Global Business Network has something called this process of scenario planning. We got to pay attention. As soon as something changes, pay attention. It's going to get better. That's not really happening. Did I really see that? Yeah, it's happening. You saw it. And the sooner we acknowledge the shift, the easier it'll be to adjust. And the idea is, again, continuing to ask questions. It's called appreciative inquiry. Ask yourself questions. What if? Ask other people questions. What would you say if I told you blah, 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 blah? Oh, I'd tell you that maybe you need to do ABC. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Or I thought about ABC. What else would you tell me? We cannot get into denial, because then it'll be even harder. And it's hard to focus, but we got to focus. And again, this idea, acknowledge that the changes are happening. We cannot, it's not business as usual. As they said in the Wizard of Oz, we're not in Kansas anymore. And we got to see the change in its broadest implication. Not, this was my vision and that vision is gone and now I can't do any of this. Yes, you can. Because if we look a lot broader, we were in many different arenas than we thought. It never occurred to me that I was actually working with individuals in a coaching and a mentoring way. I was, when I was talking with them about their organizations and their businesses. And until somebody else helped me to see that, I didn't see it like that, because I was so focused on, and what do I call my business? Building the capacity of organizations, even though I say that organizations are made up of people. So it took me a while, like, wait a minute, I don't really work with an individual. Yes, you do. So connecting the change with all the things that happen in the everyday business. What happens with your customers? What happened with your suppliers? What happens with any contractors that you work with? I mean, I know people who contract with city and state governments and county governments. A lot of that has been put on hold. Some of that has ramped up. It depends on what you were contracting for. I love the way people have focused into the making masks. People who were, making things are now like, hey, we don't just make clothes, we use fabric. We can make masks. It's been fascinating to watch that. And do get the support that you need to make it through. Please, again, that's why Good Work Network is so important. And create a safe environment. Create a safe environment for it, that it doesn't work. And again, there's 25 different plans in the alphabet. So if one thing doesn't work, try something else. And we got to work on our own mental health about becoming very angry and very sad. And yes, that is part of it. I'm not saying we can't ignore that, but we have to do whatever we need to do, whether it's reading, counseling, meditating, whatever it is that you do, so that the anger or the sadness at losing your original concept or vision does not send you spiraling down, which will keep you from really being the best entrepreneur that you can be. And whatever we have to sunset, let's celebrate it. It worked for us. It got us going. It was great. We celebrated, and we celebrate everybody who was involved in it. And then, as the song says in Frozen, then we release it to the universe and let it go in a very positive way, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. It is very difficult to preserve order amid change and to preserve change amid order. And that's really what you're trying to do, is how do I keep this business going while everything around me is going crazy? And really, that's what we're called to do. And then change is a process. It is not an event. Getting a certain contract is not going to change your business. It has to do with your mindset. It has to do with your learning. It's not an event. It is a process. And so it's really important. There's this thing about chaos, you know, and a lot of people don't like chaos, especially in business. Chaos. We're not supposed to have, we're supposed to be orderly chaos. But the interesting thing that if a seed never burst open, it would never become the plant that it was supposed to be. And for that seed, bursting open is chaos. It's a true transformation. If the seed never opened up, it would die. And so the idea is that this process, not an event. And yes, there's going to be some chaos. So acknowledge that things are changing. Commit to being open to transformation, your personal transformation, your personal vision. Target where you want to go and why. The most important thing is why. If you've not read Simon Sinek's book about why, I'm going to encourage you to do it, because it's why are we doing this? So, well, I'm changing because of COVID-19. It's got to be deeper than that. That may have been the precipice. That may have been the tipping point, but there's got to be another reason. Commit to staying with it. Target. Make an investment. Maybe we need to learn something new. Make an investment in yourself, in your own mental and emotional health. And this is ongoing. Do not think of this as an episode. Again, if it's not this, it's going to be something else. And no businesses stay the same. Any business that stays the same eventually dies. You look at, you know, menus and things like that. It's amazing. I'm an older person, and I remember when there were certain, like green goddess dressing. You couldn't find green goddess dressing now. You say, well, why is that so important? Because the places that kept the same menus in restaurants, it didn't work. It didn't work. So the way we do our businesses, the world changes, people change, the environment changes, and we have to transform with it. And again, now, how do we what are we going to do now? You have been given a workbook, hopefully, that you will work through about change and how you react to change. You're also going to get a worksheet that says, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to hold on to? What assets do I bring to the table? We all bring something to the table. And some of the assets are intrinsic. So one of it be make passion. You bring passion for your business. You bring passion for your community. So hopefully you'll spend some time on that. I chose Eleanor Roosevelt because she was first of all, she was an amazing woman. She was a very unorthodox first lady. She was the wife of President Franklin Roosevelt. But she was somebody who believed in labor. She believed in the working people. She believed in inclusion at a time in the 30s and the 40s when people like her, she was a upper class woman who was the first lady, they weren't into that. And what she did, the things that she did, if you've not read about her, read about her. She started a radio show. You say, well, everybody got a podcast now. Women did not have radio shows back in the 30s and the 40s. She wrote an article. She didn't just stay at the White House and have teas. She went to the coal mines. She made sure that Marian Anderson, who was an African-American opera singer, could sing when a certain group told her that she could not sing in Constitution Hall. She was such an advocate for people like you, for people like me, who are trying to do something different, who are trying to follow our passions, who thrive at being entrepreneurs. You know, and so what she says, with the new day comes new strength and new thoughts. And we have to allow those new thoughts. Some of us have been pushing new thoughts away. Like, this is the way we do it. This is the way I do it, and I'm not going to do it any other different way because this is really working for me now. But we know it's a new day now, and we do have to get new strength, and we have to be able to think new thoughts. So change won't come if we wait for somebody else. Oh no, I'm sure that the government grants have been helpful to some of you, but it's really about us. We have to be the change that we seek. We have to seek the businesses that we care about, and how can we transform them into being viable, generative businesses, some small, some large, that add value to our community and that make us proud. We really are the change that we seek. So I'm going to stop now. Please follow me on social media. I'm going to stop now and we'll look at a few questions if there's